Ladies and gentlemen, continuing today's discussions, we're going to talk a little bit more on the capital side of the Bitcoin ecosystem. Yesterday, during day one, we had a panel full of some of the notable venture capitalists throughout the Bitcoin ecosystem on a global scale. We talked about what was and what hasn't happened yet around venture capital and why investors are taking their first step or maybe doubling and tripling down within the Bitcoin ecosystem. But for you as founders and for those investors in the crowd, it's time to get back to the basics and the 101s. Ladies and gentlemen, for our next discussion around fundraising 101 or 301, please welcome Joe of LunarCrush.
Hello, everyone. Want to just start real quick. We're going to do a little breathing exercise. Even you guys in the back over there. It's really simple. All we're going to do is take a 5-second breath in, 5-second hold, and then 5-second release. Everyone with me? Ready? Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold it. 2, 3, 4, 5, and release. 2, 3, 4, 5. Present mind, a calm mind feels good, right? And that's what you need for fundraising. My name is Joe Vezzani. I'm the CEO and co-founder of LunarCrush. I'll be talking about fundraising today, but if you are going to be out there fiddling with your phones, I ask you to fiddle your way to X and follow us at lunarcrush.com or sign up for LunarCrush. It's $24 a month, and you're going to get all these great insights about social intelligence and analytics. So with that, let's get to this list, and I'm going to blast through it because I've had a lot of coffee today. There is no silver bullet. I call it's a beautiful mess. So just like with startups, there isn't one way to do things. In the early days of LunarCrush, we had a lot of mentors giving us a lot of advice, and these people would come in and say, hey Joe, it's like, you guys need a sales playbook. You got to get your sales playbook going, right? And so I had this old codger come into the office one day. He's like 80 years old, and I was like, I'm thinking about getting this sales playbook going. And he says to me, he goes, actually, you've got no idea what you're doing. All you know is that you're going to do it. And fundraising is similar. There is the end goal is to raise capital, and however that happens, that's the right way to do it. So there's a couple tips and tricks that I'd like to give you along the way here. Develop your own style and be confident, be excited. No two founders are going to be the same, right? Each of you has your own style. You got to embrace your style, be confident. The smart money already knows where you are on the path, right? Whether you're a developer, you're a solo founder, you're an operator, you gotta embrace your style. You made the jump to start this business, and so I know you have it in you to make that happen. Also a note here, the CEO should be the one that is raising and getting all this capital across the finish line. You should need to be able to do that yourself. You're obviously gonna bring in co-founders, bring in people to be a part of some of these meetings, but you know that this is your job to make it happen. Know when it's time to fundraise, right? Like, is your business in a solid and pitchable state at this moment, right? Do you have another co-founder who's jumping ship with you to start the business? Are there metrics that you can show that are legitimate? Is a prototype in place, right? You need to be able to tell this story. If you're not at a position where you have a great story, you might need to go, into survival mode until you're ready, and it'll feel good because you want to be raising from a position of power, and you want to go into full fundraise mode, and that means fully committing, right? If you're either fundraising at a startup or you're not fundraising, and it's absolute go time, and most of your time or energy is going to be spent networking, lining up meetings, then the process of attempting to close those meetings. You just can't waver here. 90% of your time, it's going to feel like a lot. You're operating a business, right? 90% of your time needs to be going all in on fundraising, and the venture capital, they can smell that. Lean heavily on your brain trust and the people around you. If you've already raised a round, you know that potentially 50% of that capital that you're going to get in this next round is going to come from the previous investors that you had. If you're a first-time founder, find a friend that's business savvy, find parents, friends, find some people that you can lean on to be a brain trust, to be a part of this, and start asking for introductions. Some people don't subscribe to this idea that, hey, you need to pay money to get onto a cap table. If you do want to bring on an advisory board member, pay them 25 basis points, find someone that's really quality. One person is going to make an introduction to the next person. So you really need to rely on a trusted friend. And so Stay organized. Like, it seems self-explanatory, right? You need to stay organized, but it's vital. You've got decks, pro formas, write-ups, legal docs, cap tables, due diligence folders. The more organized you are, the more velocity you're going to have in that process. Each of these forwardables maybe that you have to an investor could take 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And so if those things start to stack up and you're the type of person that might procrastinate a little bit, you're going to want to be able to make sure you can get those things out right away. Respond promptly. It seems simple, right? It's hard though, and there's a lot of reasons for this. A couple of them though are, first and foremost, responding promptly shows that you're just on top of your shit. People respect that, right? You want to get this out there. Second, it tags back to staying organized. There's going to be days that you have 6 or 7 meetings lined up, right? Second, third meetings, maybe, they're going to ask for things like, hey, send me the deck, send me the legal docs. You're going to get really overwhelmed if you don't have things organized and ready to get sent out, and it's going to back you up. It's this idea of get the monkey off your back, right? If you've got a task to be done, it's on you. You want to get that monkey off your back. You want to put it onto the investor and make sure that they're the ones that need to respond to you. When do you do a safe? When do you do a priced round, right, for equity? When do you raise on a token? Obviously, it depends on your business. Starting to get a little bit more tactical here. What are you raising and why? Right, the Y Combinator safe is a very easy and simple way to go for a lot of people if you're starting the business and it's something new. But I will say that doing an equity round has gotten a lot cheaper than it used to be. Find a good lawyer. A lot of these documents are templatized and they're online for you to figure out. I will say also venture capital does appreciate the ability to get those preferred rights that they would get in an equity round. They feel a little bit more comfortable with that. And then you just kind of look a little bit more buttoned up if you've pulled off a priced round and you kind of pick that number. And so people will appreciate that. So know what's right for you. You don't always need a lead, right? Everyone's like, oh, I'm trying to find a lead. I'm trying to find a lead, right? Especially with these smaller rounds, you can get people to commit with what's called soft circling, right? So, you can ask someone a question like, hey, if I have 50% of the round, committed at this price point, would you be willing to write a check then, right? And they're like, yeah, if you get that done, I'll write a check, right? So you've kind of soft circled that person, right? And so if you can get 50% of the round or 60% of the round of the people to say that, right? Now suddenly it's like, okay, I might be able to syndicate this round on my own, right? Go talk to the person who wrote the largest check and come to a point on valuation, right? A lot of times these rounds don't actually move forward until you as the founder, you pick a number. Sounds crazy, but a lot of people say, oh, we'll let the market price it, right? No, you go price it, you know where it needs to be. You syndicate that round, suddenly, you're closing on your own. Have your docs ready to prevent redlining. If there's any venture capitalists in the audience, you'll hate this one. You find a solid startup lawyer, right? Or you've got templatized docs. When you send these documents out to investors, you only want like 3 variables on these documents, right? You want them to change the signature, the name, and the number of shares or how much token they're going to get, right? And so when you send these documents out, they sign it. So if anyone's starting to kind of push back on legal, you can kind of say, hey, I've got 40% of the round on this paperwork already, right? Like, you're going to make me go back and have all of these people change these documents at this point in time. And a lot of times they're not going to push back. And so you can kind of push that documentation through. It's going to save you a lot of time. It's going to save you a lot of headache when getting across there. The last, a little bit more tactical here too, the last 3 checks question. You want to qualify these investors, okay? There's all types of investors out there. You're looking for venture funds and angels who write checks and have written checks recently, okay? So, you're asking the last 3 checks and when they wrote them and how much they were, and if they can't really kind of spit that off right away, you might be talking to someone that actually doesn't have money and they're just, spinning your wheels, and there's a lot of people out there that will do that. So just kind of beware. Also, you want to kind of avoid any like syndicate angels or these kind of like advisory type people. So if people come to you and they're like, oh yeah, I've got 5 other people in this little syndicate, we're gonna get, you just don't want to talk to those people. It might be like a last resort for you at the end, maybe, but you just say, hey, just come talk to me when you got the money. Sometimes it feels weird to say those things, but you just got to push them. Venture funds, they actually don't always have all of the cash on hand. So you want to qualify me even more. Ask the question, like, how much money have you raised? Where are you with this fund? How much do you actually have on hand? How much money do you still need to call from your limited partners in order to get there? You're just trying to figure out, like, can they write the check tomorrow, right? And what can you do to push them to get there? It is normal for them not to have all the funds on hand, but it's good for you to, as a founder, to figure this out, to know where they're at. And then, understand how much allocation that these funds have for subsequent rounds that you're going to raise, right? They're a lot of times earmarking 60, 70% of these rounds, a good fund for subsequent rounds, right? And so 50% or more, if you raise a Series A, you're looking at 50% or more of your Series B to come from previous investors so that they can maintain their equity position in your company. And so you want to hopefully talk to people that have understood that. And that means that they're a good investor and they're willing to kind of move things forward. And then your subsequent rounds get way easier because you've already got money and momentum from these investors that you've done a good job with. Close on money immediately. If you get a yes, close on these docs. Get them out to people, get that wire information out there, get that wallet address. Hopefully we all love getting that, Etherscan or whatever scan ID, out there. Stacks, Hero, we love getting that Explorer link out there. Which is great. So just don't feel weird about sending the docs and getting people to send money, right? It's a big green flag if you can talk to an investor and say, hey, we're 50% closed and I've got 50% of the money in my bank account versus, hey, we've got, 50% of the people committed and we're looking for a lead, right? Those are two very different things to get that momentum going, and that's what you're looking for. The intro to when you actually receive a wire, like I said, you get that transaction ID can vary greatly. If you're raising a round, it's going to take a lot longer than you think, right? There's a lot of people out there that will say, you might hear people say, oh, it was 6 weeks, right? I got it from close to finish. It's just, that's lore. It's not actually true, right? Maybe a small amount was done there, but just be honest with yourself, right? You get an introduction. Maybe it's a week before that meeting happens, right? Then they got to go back. They got to have IC on a Monday. That could be a full week for you. They got to convince the team. Maybe you get a DDQ, a due diligence questionnaire. It's got 48 questions on it. These things take time. Maybe they make an introduction to another fund. It's going to be 6 months. So just prepare yourself for that at a minimum. And so you know exactly where you're at. And so you got to just be patient, right? And you got to stay on that top of funnel. Right? It's like looking for a job. It's like you can't put all your eggs in one basket and hope that this one thing is going to come through. You can't put all your eggs in one basket with an investor at the very end, right? That they could be feeding you a line of bullshit and say, hey, we're going to put $1.5 million in at the end, and then they just don't show up, and now you don't have a top of funnel, and you've lost all the momentum in your round. So you just got to stay on it until it happens. Don't overraise. I just can't stress this enough. No matter what anyone tells me, I will just never subscribe to overraising in any way, shape, or form. It's a disaster from an incentive standpoint and a structure, and can set you up, for the next round to perform, right? If you overraise, you raise $20 million, that's going to push your valuation up. You're giving 15 to 25% of your business away every round. 10% if you're a hot startup, 30% if you're just kind of middle of the road. So if you're raising $20 million at a $100 million valuation, the next round, people are expecting 200. Right? And so if you're over-raising, it might seem like a small number, but it's really handicapping you for the next one. And like I said, all your previous investors are going to be the first people into your next round, and they sure shit don't want to invest in a down round. So just don't over-raise. Can't stress that enough. Also, don't stall by fixating on valuation, right? Valuation is important, right? Don't get lost in the sauce, but once you're a couple rounds in, you'll understand. But your job as the CEO is to keep the business funded and keep the business going, right? That's it. And, at the end of the day, a $20 million valuation versus a $25 million valuation will have no long-term effect on the business, and really is going to affect the number of points that you hold personally as well. And so you just don't want to stall and lose momentum, because momentum's everything. Yes versus no versus ghosts. What's a ghost? Maybe everyone here's at some point been ghosted after giving a number to someone, so you might understand what that is. But you're going to get 50% no's, 45% of the people you talk to are going to ghost you, and then 5% of the less people that you talk to are actually going to invest in your company. That's normal. That's the way it is. I personally will never understand why people will ghost you, but you'll have third, fourth meetings, maybe your Telegram chats going up and down, tons of people, and all of a sudden it just stops. It just happens. It happens a lot. So just be prepared for that, but don't worry about that at all, right? You're just going to cycle through those people. Make sure you got your list, and so you know the people that have ghosted you, don't reach out to them again. We'll eventually get rid of the ghosts. There you go. The slow no. What's the slow no? A slow no is when an investor says, hey, I'm interested, but, hey, maybe find a lead, or, it's a little early for us, but we're interested. So the way that you get rid of this slow no is kind of part of that soft circling that I talked about. Maybe it's someone you really like, and you say, hey, Jeff, thanks for the call. We're starting to, syndicate the round, and, is there a number that I can earmark you for? I'm going to send the paperwork over today or tomorrow, whatever it may be. right? And if you still don't get back from those people, if you like them and you want to be a part of it, you call them and you say, hey, are you going to invest? How much money are you going to invest? I'm sending the docs by the end of the day. That's it. So it's like, don't feel weird about it. Don't get around it. You just got to, as a founder, you got to go through. If they don't want to invest, they don't want to invest. Angel versus institutional versus strategic. So an angel investor, they'll put 25K, 100K in, right? Like sometimes you hear about these things called super angels, that are going to invest, your entire round. Again, that's more fantasy than reality, I would say. But it might sound good to have someone to just like, hey, boom, one investor, an entire round. But in reality, I think there's more negatives than positives to that. You want a well-balanced cap table. Institutional, that's the venture capital. That's where most of your funding is actually going to come from. It's a perfect match, right? Venture capital, they go and they get money from limited partners. These are people, wealthy individuals. These are funds. These are people that are out there willing to invest and take these risks. Venture knows that 99% of the companies they invest in will fail, right? That's you. That's the founder. 99% is going to fail, right? So you want to get a lot of the money there because they have a high risk tolerance, right? And these are the people that are going to make a ton of introductions and help kind of build your round out. And then there's strategics, right? Strategics could be, hey, Coinbase is going to invest, right? They're investing off of their balance sheet. And you want these people on your cap table too, if you can. And they're people that align with what your business is. Maybe you're looking for a deeper partnership with that company, right? Or potentially it could be someone that can acquire you later on. And so you kind of want to find that balance between there. Also balancing an active versus passive cap table. So active investors, extremely helpful, right? But you don't want them too active, right? It's your business. You didn't start this business to have another boss breathing down your neck and tell you what to do. You know your business better than any of your investors will ever know your business. You're in there in the middle. So don't get pushed around at all. But you do want an active investor that's out there evangelizing your product, right? They're showing people, they're talking about it, they're sharing it on social. Like these are people that you really want to be a part of what's going on. Overly active might be, hey, let's set up a call every 3 weeks. I want to see what some of the numbers look like, right? And maybe some angels that feel like they really can help. You really got to push back on these people because they will be kind of a big time suck for you, right? You don't want to be spending that much time just updating one person. So, keep those kind of monthly updates going so that those people stay off your back. And then passive investors, we love these people too, right? These are people that, hey, maybe I own some Bitcoin, maybe I own a couple more coins. I'm interested in investing in these businesses. And, I don't really know too much about it, but I like the industry and you seem like a great fit, right? Keep these people updated, make them feel like they're a part of it. We love passive investors as well. And then when are you actually closed? All the docs are signed, all the money's in, the legal's there, everything's been filed. You've got your pro forma cap table all dialed, ready to go. And then you can make an announcement if you want, right? Having gone through the experience of announcing big rounds and not announcing big rounds, I will say when you do announce something, you are just maybe looking at an influx of like 4,000 sales emails from software salespeople. So just kind of keep your mind in that you don't always need to go out there and shout to the world. You just need to get back to building. So that's it, everyone. Thank you very much. You got any questions? Joe@lunarcrush.com. Go out there and build that unicorn. Thank you all.